There are plenty of YouTube channels out there, plenty of articles out there, plenty of commentary that is going to tell you that Pixar is panicking. Elemental has defeated the studio. Can they get their mojo back? And they're going to tell you all of the takes from inside the studio that supposedly they've heard. The difference here, I've got documents. You want to see them? All right, folks, welcome back to another fantastic day here on the WDW Pro channel, where we are attempting each and every day to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. It's really what we do. We're trying to aim for a track record of excellence. I believe that you all probably will find the same thing as you go back through, looking to see how we've done in terms of predicting what would be happening with Pixar, the Walt Disney Company, and more. Before there was Target, before there were alcoholic beverage companies falling to their knees at the mercy of consumers who are boycotting them, there was the Walt Disney Company, and yet nobody is covering that its fall from grace is perhaps more poignant than those other companies. Well, we aim to cover it accurately here. And folks, as we endeavor to do so, please, if you are interested in more content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. And you can stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about the notification bell. Yes, indeedly doodly. I do have the documents straight out of Pixar, and I'm ready to bring them to you courtesy of a tremendous viewer who was able to snag them, take a photo, and send them our way. Depending on what we find out after this video is produced, we may put their name in the description for you to go click and find the original tweets that they sent my way, but we do want to err on the side of anonymity if that's what they would prefer. All right, we're going to hop into first the article out of the Hollywood Reporter, and then we will get to those articles. If you want to skip ahead, that's your prerogative, but you don't want to miss a second of this video. This out of the Hollywood Reporter by Pamela McClintock. I have never had an article that I can remember that I disagreed with on Pamela McClintock, so take that for what you will. Elemental box office debacle. Pixar movie opens to record worst $29.6 million. That's the lowest three-day weekend start in the history of the storied animation company when adjusting the opening of 1995's Toy Story for inflation. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Pixar's movie about a rat with ambitions of becoming an acclaimed French chef started off its box office run at a slow simmer when opening to a less than favorable, Pamela, great job, $47 million in summer 2007. Pundits were quick to pronounce Pixar had botched the recipe in a rare miss. She is on fire with this thing. But skeptics were proven wrong when Ratatouille began boiling over on its way to earning $623 million at the worldwide box office. For decades, the revered animation studio that was backed by the late Steve Jobs before being bought by Disney could do no wrong, using the most unlikely scraps to turn out perfect stews again and again that became both commercially and critical hits at the box office buffet. I do want to take one issue with this. People often say this, but they forget A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life was not successful, and it was the second film out of Pixar. It is a small quibble that I have. That all changed in the past several years, capped by the dismal debut of Elemental over the June 16 to 18 weekend. The movie, a parable about immigration and getting along. It's a little, I don't know if I agree with that. I think there's far more to that. Bombed with a $29.6 million domestic debut, the worst three-day weekend start in the company's history behind Pixar's first release, 1995's Toy Story, which earned $29.1 million over the three-day Thanksgiving weekend, a veritable small fortune at the time. When adjusted for inflation, Toy Story's opening weekend haul would be north of $50 million. Pause here. We need to chat about this. In so many articles, I have seen people talking about adjusted for inflation, and all they do is they literally just adjust for the inflation of the day. But that is not how you should do this at all. In fact, you can go back years and years and years and find out the exact average price of a movie ticket, which is not the same as inflation. In fact, movie tickets today have far outstripped the inflationary rise that we see, which is historic. And so today, according to the statistics we've seen from AMC, an average movie ticket price is somewhere around $15. And so when you consider that, which is way above where it would be if you just adjusted for inflation as a standard, well, you realize that Toy Story is something like, from 1995, it costs something like a quarter or a third of the total price of a movie ticket today. So that number that's given then, that it would be north of $50 million, Actually, it would be far more if it came out today and did the same number of sales for the same number of people. It would do way more. It's something like 75 to $80 million. And you have to remember too that because this was a no-name studio coming out with a brand new concept, people didn't know what to think. After that first weekend, though, they sure did. Moreover, Toy Story was groundbreaking success that catapulted Pixar to fame and created an unparalleled brand. Elemental's projected 4-day domestic opening over the long Juneteenth holiday weekend is 33.4. That's $33.4 million. Now, let me quibble once again, although I do love Pamela McClintock's work. When it comes to the Juneteenth weekend, there are holidays in which they have an impact on the box office, and there are holidays that have no impact on the box office. That's not to say that any of those holidays are less or more. It just means to say that when it comes to Juneteenth, there's no evidence that this is a holiday that has an impact on the box office. There are holidays that have impacts on the box office. There are some that don't. Juneteenth is currently in the category of holidays that there's nothing related to the tradition of going to the movies for families with that. That could change in the future, but right now, no. And so when you look at this 33.4 million and see that, oh, wait, it's going to add 4 million on a Monday, that's just 4 million on a Monday. That's nothing. There's no holiday impact there, folks. And so it goes on to talk about how basically the Hollywood excuse right now is that you can't put out a film that's based on new IP. Oh, come on. But let's read it. Let's read the Hollywood line that we've got. But family picks that aren't based on known IP are proving hard to eventize. That means turn them into big events that families will go see. After consumers were trained during the pandemic to stream new Pixar films in the home, remember, we're like dogs, a controversial policy orchestrated by then Disney chief Bob Chapek. Oh, now you see why it's so convenient to make that argument, right? You get to blame it on the Bob, not on Iger, even though Iger would have been the CEO who was over Pixar when they greenlit Elemental. It can't be his fault because Chapek's the guy who trained everybody to wait until streaming, except that's not what's happening with any other studio, even though they're doing the same thing. I love it. Yet not even last summer's Toy Story spinoff Lightyear, which did receive a traditional theatrical run, could break through. It topped out at a mere $226.4 million globally. And yes, folks, Elemental is going to struggle to hit $200 million. If you believe Valiant Renegade, it's going to struggle to hit $150 million. Now, the idea, and it'll discuss this later in the article, the idea that a cinema score or stellar exit scores are going to help this movie, no, it's not. I'm sorry. This is akin to going to a funeral, looking down and at the person who's deceased and saying, they look pretty good. No, they look dead. And this movie looks dead. I hate to break it to everybody. This movie is a goner. So you can't open it this low. You just can't. And we've got now news about Mission Impossible coming out, that it's going to be incredible. That's going to wipe out everything. It's a tsunami of Tom Cruise coming. All right. We promised the documents. I'm going to show you the documents, and I'm going to lead you through why these documents show that Pixar is panicked, really and truly. And so let me describe what this is. This is an exit survey that Pixar itself, apparently, according to the sources we have, according to the people who were there, that Pixar apparently has commissioned to be given out with moviegoers on the first day, perhaps the second day as well. All right. Now, baked into this survey, which, they're supposedly trying to get information about the movie, I believe that this survey is actually designed to try to justify the idea that Pixar is just a victim of this strategy of putting movies out onto Disney Plus after they finish their theatrical run. Now, how do I know that? Well, let's take a look at the survey in depth. And by the way, we're going to take this survey together, if you don't mind. But here's the survey, and here's how it is laid out. Remember, this is not being presented from the Walt Disney Company. As far as we're aware, this is literally coming straight from Pixar, which is strange. It's very unusual for a studio, not a distributor, to be passing these out. The first thing that you need to notice, and by the way, I am correct on the 2 days. It's Friday and Saturdays when they ran this. Okay, so the first thing you need to notice is the cities that are listed up there in the gray. This is the dead giveaway that this is not aimed in order to get actual accurate information, in my opinion. This is aimed at trying to build a narrative out of survey results. How do I know that? Let's take a look. Let's look at the cities here. We've got Orange County, right? We've got this Orange County out of California. That's going to be a city. And by the way, we don't discuss politics on here except when it intersects with entertainment. Here we have to, because this is going to skew the survey. Orange County, very liberal. Barrington, right? Barrington is going to be another place that is moderately liberal. Paramus, and I think I'm pronouncing that right, out of New Jersey, is going to be moderately liberal. Alpharetta, one of the more liberal places in Georgia that you can find. And then Plano, Texas, moderately conservative. So if you look at the way that this is designed out, they didn't send this to your average middle America right down the moderate way. They didn't send this to very many places that are conservative at all. In fact, it is 4-1 liberal to conservative. And why does that matter? Well, because they are attempting to find an audience that will agree with Pixar values, as opposed to probably a more accurate representation of America and American consumers. That's what I think anyway. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that we see inside the movie, and there's been this virtue signaling that there's a non-binary character, right? It's a little water creature named Ocean or Lake or who knows. But anyway, in this one, you don't get the option to select that. So Pixar, when it comes to their practicality, they don't practice what they preach, apparently. Number one, please tell us your gender, male, female, and that's it. So I don't know what's going on here, but very interesting to say the least. Number two, please tell us your exact age. We'll withhold that for now. Are you here with a child under 12? And I did go see the movie with a child under 12, particularly because I wanted to know what the take would be. It says, if you're a parent, what are the ages and genders of each child under 12 who's with you? And again, they do not allow for parents to select any other option besides boys and girls. Interesting. It wants to know the race and ethnicity. Wants to know who came with you to see the movie. Are you a fan of Pixar movies? Yes, definitely. Yes, somewhat. No, not at all. Now, notice that when you are deriving a survey, if you want to get accurate information, you want to present the best possible array of answers. In this case, this is a tilted question out of Pixar. You've got 2 yeses and a no. And what that does is that some people they may want to land in the middle, right? They don't hate Pixar films. They don't love Pixar films. They're just in the middle. And so they might pick the middle one, but that's still a yes. And so when Pixar does the aggregate of the scores for all of this, then they still land in the yes category. Isn't that clever, folks? This is how, this is why you come to this channel, for the rubrics of how Hollywood works. 2 yeses, 1 no, and you think you're selecting a middle one, but you're still selecting yes. When did you decide to see Elemental? That one is rather, we don't care too much. Where do you remember seeing or hearing about this movie? Again, we don't care too much, although I do find it funny that they've got the promotional ad with McDonald's over there. They're wanting to bolster that, I suppose, and say, yeah, we got some hits off of Mickey D's. All right, which of the following were important to your decision to see this movie? Now, the reason this question matters to us is because this is going to tell us why Pixar thinks that you want to come see this movie. Here we go. Number one, seen the elements come to life. Oh, yes, I really want to see medieval elements come to life. That was big for me, baby. Come on. I like Ember, the main fire character. Well, how would you know that if you had not seen the movie before? I like Wade, the water character. Well, how would I know that? And I also like that they had to put in parentheses who these characters are because they're worried you won't remember. Interesting characters. Well, how would you know? Looked fun. Okay. It looks different or original. The story. How would you know on the story? The emotion, the romance, the comedy, the action adventure, the settings of the world, the positive message, good lessons, the good reviews. It's from Pixar. It's from Disney. It's a good family movie. It looks like a good movie to see in theaters. Family for a friend recommended it, or others wanted to see it, and I went along. And notice how they bury that one at the end, of course. And so those are some of the reasons they think you'll go. Then it wants you to rate it. Now, this one, it says excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. Notice this, folks. Again, this is why you come to this channel. I'm going to show you how they manipulate these stats and why I believe this is a document meant to bolster Pixar, probably so they can give it to Disney and say, well, we did this research. Here's what it says. Excellent, very good, good, fair. Okay, so that's 3 ways that you can vote for it being good. Then you've got fair, which is 1 way that you can vote for it being okay. And then they give you 1 option for negative. So 3 positive options, 1 moderate option, 1 negative. So you have three chances to give them a positive result so that they can then say, because this is what they'll do. They're not going to say, well, here's our percentage on excellent. Here's our percentage on very good. Here's our percentage on good, Mr. Iger. No, they're going to say, Mr. Iger, 85% selected a positive rating for having gone seen Elemental on the exit poll. Because there are three positives, there's one moderate, and there's one negative. So the chances are you'll select a positive. 13. Would you recommend this movie to a friend? They actually do a good job on that one. Parents only. Would you recommend this movie to other parents for their kids? Get a little squeamish on that one. How did this movie measure up to your expectations? That one actually is still okay. And then it goes into what did you like best about the movie? And these are fun. Some of the last ones. Take a look on the right side of this. The immigration storyline. So if you were curious about whether this is about immigration or not, it definitely is. One of the funny things about this movie is I think that it can't figure out what it's telling. I think there's a positive immigration story in this. I also think there's a positive story about how cultures can intermingle and produce something fantastic and new. The problem is for Pixar and for the studio that is directly counter to the idea of intersectionality. And so, they try to then also go into the woke territory, but they don't know what they're doing because they're stumbling about. All right, let's take a look now at this back one. This is where we're going to get into the really interesting stuff. All right, regardless of how much you like the movie, right? Ignore just how much you love this thing you saw. Was there anything that held you back from liking it more? And it goes into this. It was boring, dull, not funny enough, too emotional, too complex for kids, didn't like the story, couldn't relate to the characters, didn't like the ending, yada, yada, yada. And then other. Now, here's what they don't list out. They could have said that it was too weird. They could have said that it was one reason that you could have disliked it is because it didn't relate to your values. But they don't put that in there. The one thing that I do find, I love this one. They admit right in here, didn't have a villain. And I would have to say that I would select that. So let's go through this. Let me select the ones that I would say are reasons that I did not care for this film, although it kind of annoyed me if you read or if you listen to my review of it. It annoyed me because I thought it had a chance to be great, and it wasn't. And in the right hands, they could have made this be a very good movie. It was boring and dull. Yep. Not funny enough. Yep. Not enough action. It was okay. Too much romance. No, for what it was, it's a rom-com. Too emotional. Nope. Story felt typical, done before. Definitely not. Nobody's done this thing. Too predictable. I didn't expect them to go with the Frosty the Snowman ending, but didn't like the story. Correct. It was too slow. Correct. It was too long. Nope. Too confusing. No. Didn't have a villain. Oh, that was a big problem. Too childish only for kids. It's not for kids. Too complex for kids. No, it's just too weird. Couldn't relate to the characters. I can't relate at all to Wade. He's weird. Couldn't relate to the story. It was awkward. Didn't like the beginning. No, that was fine. Didn't like the ending. Yes, that was bad. Too similar to other Pixar movies. It's nothing like Pixar movies. None of the above. So your option to say, hey, I loved every single thing about it. And then other. Well, we could go on for a while about that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how fun and entertaining did you think Elemental was, where 10 is very fun and entertaining and 1 is not fun and entertaining at all? I would give it, based on this ranking that they have, where 5 is somewhat fun and entertaining. And by the way, look at that. It's again aimed at skewing because you're going to grade this with the same way that you would grade most things and be like, okay, well, 5 is average and it was okay. It was an average film. But look, the way they have framed it is, if you select 5, if you select the middle, then they get to say that you're part of that fun and entertaining category. You said it was fun and entertaining. It doesn't matter if you said it was somewhat or very. You said it was fun and entertaining. So based on their scale, I would probably put this at a 3. That's where I would probably put it. How would you rate each character from the movie? Now, this is a lot of fun because this really shows everybody just how bad this movie is in terms of its design. These look like very ugly Muppets when they are put to black and white. So let's go through this. How would you rate every character from the movie? I'm going to rate Ember as being very good. I thought that was quite a good character. Wade is poor. He is unrelatable. He is a sloppy mess, which might work for a water creature, but it doesn't work for a male lead who's supposed to be a romantic interest. Bernie, Ember's dad, he is good, I suppose. Cinder, Ember's mom, she is poor. She is annoying, and she's a caricature. Wade's Family, very poor. If there was a rating scale to put even farther down, I would select poor. And notice again, folks, that they're using the same system: 3 positives, 1 moderate, 1 negative. Again, in my opinion, meant to skew the results. But Wade's Family, it cannot go poor enough. It was very distracting and a major negative part of the film. Gail, Wade's boss, poor also. It's a poorly designed character, poorly voiced character, unpleasant. Claude, I would give that a fair. They tried. It's aimed at making kids have some way of connecting with this film, but it's also weird. I don't want a kid who grows flowers out of his armpits. And then Fern, Gail's boss, was also poor. And then it goes on and on and on. I think at this point you get the idea. I do think it's interesting that they're asking about Carl's Date. And, how would you rate Carl's Date, the short film that played before the movie? Here, I'm going to give this poor. It was unpleasant to see Carl Fredricksen acting like a very strange old man getting ready to go on a date and doing slapstick comedy based on that and turning the picture of Ellie around. I found all of that to be negative. And then finally, the last question on this survey: based on the trailers, how interested are you in going to see these movies when they come out in theaters? Haunted Mansion, The Marvels, Wish, and Elio. Now, Pixar is interested in Elio, but the other 3 may be used by the studio to say, oh, well, look, nobody wants to go see these movies either, Disney. It's not our fault. It's a company-wide issue. And you know what? Perhaps they would be right on that. But that's what we have for you today, folks. I wanted to show you the survey that Pixar is putting out. It is very strange for a studio to do that. It's usually the distributors. It's usually the companies, the theaters themselves. It's usually a third party. We are told this is directly from Pixar, which is just strange. And I also wanted to show you that, well, the way that they're putting this survey out and where they are putting out is clearly done in a way that will skew the results as positively as they can be. The problem for Pixar, the problem for Pete Docter, is that the box office will not change based on the survey results. No, that box office number is going to be what it is going to be. And it is not going to change based on whether or not Disney releases this on the streaming in 90 days or 120 days or whenever. That will have no impact because people are not waiting to go see this when it hits Disney+. It will register on Nielsen for about 1 week and it will disappear, just like other Disney content. That's not what happens with other companies. That's not what happens with other studios. Pixar is in a place all of its own, except that, well, it's beginning to share that place with many other things inside the Walt Disney Company. Well, folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. We're talking about that notification bell. Drop a comment down below. What did you think about the survey? Are you excited to see some actual documentation and to have it explained exactly how studios can manipulate the results of these exit polls in order to get the results that they want? Let me know down in the comments below. If you're not yet a member of this channel, it's the cost of a soda. Hit that little join button and see if you like it. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Say it ain't so. This just in. Disney lost money on another movie. Why, that can't be. I thought that John Lasseter fella over at Pixar was cranking out the latest hits, and Marvel was unstoppable, and Disney princesses were a thing, and Star Wars was a multi-billion-dollar money-making franchise.
I overheard you talking about Disney, and wanted to let you know you're really behind the ball. If you were getting great articles from thatparkplace.com and subscribe to WDW Pro's YouTube channel, you'd actually be ahead of the culture curve and have entertainment explained.